Welcome to Learn English with Fun with 𝙤𝙪𝙤.
Welcome to this new series called Office English. In this series, we will be looking at phrases and various situations that one comes across in an office environment and how to do things in various situations there. Meetings at work can be stressful spaces to speak. Do you struggle to talk about your ideas in meetings? Do you know how to interrupt politely? In this episode of Office English, 𝙤𝙪𝙤 and Govind, that is I, talk about some useful phrases you can use to speak in meetings in a friendly and professional way. Meetings. They are a big part of our time at work. Some people love them and some people hate them.
Sometimes meetings can feel a bit pointless and you are just trying to fill the time. So, ideally, there's an agenda. So you know what's going to be talked about and discussed. I do sometimes get nervous speaking up in meetings because I have a bit of a fear of speaking in front of people.
Remember, if you need any help with your English language skills, then be sure to check out with 𝙤𝙪𝙤 by subscribing to our Spotify podcasts or search Learn English with Fun. If you don't have a Spotify account, you can visit www.𝙤𝙪𝙤.com for the complete set of our podcasts, which are categorized as per the discussion. Do note that our podcasts are short and impactful and are posted twice a week.
In this episode of Learn English with Fun from 𝙤𝙪𝙤, we're looking at how to speak up in meetings and get your ideas heard.
Welcome to Office English under the Learn English with Fun podcast of 𝙤𝙪𝙤. In this new series, we are initially going to look at a guide to the language of the world of work. In today's podcast, we discuss words and phrases that you can use to help improve your business English in the office. I am Govind.
And I'm 𝙤𝙪𝙤. Today we are talking about meetings. We have already heard that meetings can be very stressful, even for native English speakers. But what do you think, Govind? Do you speak up a lot in meetings?
It depends on the meeting.
Okay.
Sometimes you have a meeting with people you work closely with, a small meeting, and I find it quite easy to try and contribute and ask people and the other things like that. Sometimes you are in a bigger meeting with people you don't know so well, or maybe you are meeting people you don't work with, a client or a different department. That is a lot harder.
Yeah. I agree. And when you get stressed like that, you maybe don't want to speak, or you are nervous to contribute, or you feel that you are tripping over your words, you are getting what you are about to say wrong. And so, that can be really stressful.
It is something that I think most people are nervous about. And so today, we are going to talk you through the basics of meetings and phrases you can use to get your voice heard.
So, we have been invited to a meeting. There are a lot of people in the meeting who we don't know. And at the start of the meeting, everyone is asked to introduce themselves. How can we do this professionally, Govind?
Okay, how about saying, for those who don't know me? For those who don't know me. In real world, for those who don't know me, I am Govind and I do podcasts about business English under the umbrella Learn English with Fun with 𝙤𝙪𝙤.
Yeah. That is nice because it is sort of an expectation that people might not know you. Another one you could maybe try is I'm responsible for. So instead of saying what your role is, what your job title is, just explain what you do. So, for those who don't know me, I'm 𝙁𝙁 and I'm the AI robot responsible for supporting Govind for the podcasts at 𝙤𝙪𝙣, and I also teach others when he grants me permission to.
And I think that is really good because I don't know how it is in other languages, but in English, your job title often doesn't really say what you actually do.
Yeah. So it is not very useful to tell people that. Anything else we can say here, Govind?
Always remember that if you need additional help with your grammar, if you want to understand everything you hear or read and you want to express yourself completely, then check out www.𝙤𝙪𝙣.com, where you can take great online English courses on a range of different topics.
Perhaps, if you have got a particular expertise in something, you could say, I have a background in. I have a background in. And then you are talking about an area that you know a lot of, or that you have worked in before, or that you have studied a lot. And that can be useful, perhaps saying, look, this is how I can be useful in this meeting. Ask me about these things.
Yeah. Because if you don't know people, they might be questioning why you are there. And so it's good to kind of say early what your expertise is and what you have to bring to the meeting. What about if you don't get a chance to introduce yourself at the start of the meeting? Govind.
Well, yeah, it can be useful sometimes if you can just bring one of those phrases in the first time when someone asks you to speak. So, for those who don't know me, I am. And then you talk about your background and what you are responsible for, just so that people know who you are and how you can help the meeting.
Yeah. And if you have kind of got that rehearsed, it is a good way to kind of start talking. You have got over the initial nervousness. And then you can actually say what you want to say.
Right. So, we have introduced ourselves and the meeting has started. What about if somebody else makes an interesting point and we want to respond confidently in the meeting?
Yeah. So we've got a few phrases here. We could say something like, that's a really important point. It makes me think about. And then say our point. What do you think about that, Govind?
Well, it helps you engage with what someone is saying. You might be linking things that are useful. Yeah, I think it can be useful, particularly if what they have said is really relevant to what you are trying to sort out in the meeting.
Yeah, and it's conversational. Another option we can have, if we want to kind of disagree with somebody, is to say, I like that idea, but my thinking is a bit different.
I guess it is. As you said, it is a polite way of disagreeing. Do you think they really like that idea when they say it?
I don't know. It depends, I think, on what we're talking about. But it's just a polite way to say it. It's not really very helpful in a meeting, especially if you don't know people, to say, I think that idea is rubbish and I prefer my idea. So it's all about kind of being friendly and polite with people in meetings. Another way you could try and enter the conversation is to just ask a question. So you can say, what about, or how about, we try this. That's a good way to kind of enter into a discussion and a conversation.
Yeah, it is like you are putting something on the table for everyone to talk about.
But sort of saying what about, or how about, rather than a very direct question is just a bit more polite. And now a really difficult scenario. What if there are lots of important people in the meeting who are all dominating the conversation? The meeting is moving really quickly and you are nervous about speaking, but you have some ideas too. What do, Govind?
Well, I think I maybe do this too much. But it is you kind of sit and wait for the right moment. So you wait for it to be there to be a little bit of a pause and then you can say something.
Yeah, but what about if you don't get the pause and you need to interrupt? What would you say then, Govind?
We usually start by apologizing. So you could say something like, I am sorry, can I just ask? I am sorry, can I just ask? And that just is an interesting word there because you're kind of saying, I'm not sure about doing it. You're almost apologizing for asking there. I'm sorry, could I just ask? I'm sorry, but I think we need to talk about this topic. And again, the I think it's a bit hesitant, but sometimes that can be useful because you are showing it is a way of showing respect and being polite.
Yeah, so apologizing. And then kind of saying I'm sorry, but I think we should talk about this, is a really useful way in. Another thing we can do is sort of ask permission to enter the discussion. So say something like, could I add a thought?
Or, could I say something?
You are kind of showing that you realize that other people in the room are important. And so sort of asking permission to join in as well.
Yes, I think that is a really good idea. Of course, we are talking here from a context. We are here in India, and in India we tend to have politeness as a really important thing. So we say, I'm sorry a lot, or can I just do this? But this does differ in different places. Some other cultures are a lot more direct, and maybe then you don't need to apologize quite so much for saying things. So it is perhaps listen to how people speak in the place where you are working, because these cultures change, don't they? They are different in different places. So we have learned some useful phrases to help us speak up in meetings. But let us hear again from our colleagues because there is one thing we haven't talked about, and that is how to make sure our meetings are useful.
Sometimes, meetings can feel a bit pointless, and you are just trying to fill the time. So, ideally, there is an agenda. So you know what's going to be talked about and discussed.
Ram talked about having an
Agenda.
So what do we mean by an agenda, Govind?
An agenda is it's a list of things that you are going to talk about in the meeting. And it is very common, definitely in India, it is very common that you might have a slot at the end of that might say AOB, which means any other business. But the idea is that during the other slots, you only talk about the things that are on the agenda. And it is ideally you share it before the meeting so everyone knows what you are going to be talking about, why you are talking about those things, and it gives you a chance to think about what you might want to say.
And yes, it is really helpful because you can prepare in advance. And if you are in charge of the meeting, making sure you have an agenda is really helpful because it helps you stay in control of the conversation and you make sure that the meeting isn't a waste of time. So, you can say things like I think we are getting a bit off topic, or please can we stick to the agenda and make sure we talk about the important things.
Yeah, that gives you nice, efficient meetings that finish on time, hopefully.
That's the idea, anyway.
And that is it for this first episode of using elegant phrases for office environments, especially meetings. Remember, you can find courses and activities to help you with your English at www.𝙤𝙪𝙘𝙠𝙀.com.
Next time, we'll be talking about how to remind people to do something, or chase them up for a response.
And of course, we will discuss some essential phrases to help you unlock your career potential.
See you, then. Bye.
Bye, Chuckly. Let us stay tuned for the interesting facts section of this episode. Let me check with one of my AI robot. Mr. Chip, do you have anything interesting to share for our listeners in this episode?
Yeah. The longest railroad in the world is the Trans-Siberian Railway, the longest railroad in Russia. The journey takes 7 days, during which time passengers pass through 8 different time zones and cross 3,901 bridges, on a total distance of whopping 9,289 kilometers or 5,772 miles. It runs from the city of Moscow to the city of Vladivostok.
Wow, that was a good one, Mr. Chip. One more for our listeners, please.
In school, we were taught that most of the planet's surface, specifically 71%, is covered in water. While that's true, humans can use only
0.007% of that water.
That's because only about 2.5% of Earth's water is fresh water, and only 1% of that is accessible. The rest makes up glacier and snow fields. By the way, have you ever wondered why we can smell snow?
No, thanks. I know you are very intelligent, but we'll learn from you in some other episode. I hope you have enjoyed learning through yet another episode, and this time the theme was about office English and the language to use for meetings. Remember that if you need help with your English, you should do 2 things. 1. Follow us on Learn English with Fun podcast episodes at Spotify. 2. Check out www.𝙤𝙪𝙘𝙠.com. We have lots of great online English courses, including IELTS and PTE courses. My name is Govind, and I will see you soon. Stay safe. Take care.